Hello guys, I'm Sixer and welcome back to a brand new video where today I bring you not one but two rounds of the AC SRS BTCC Championship being run by Tumilty. Yeah, so Silverstone there wasn't really much interesting to talk about, that's why it kind of took so long for this one to get out. So I've kind of bungled it in together with Thruxton. Obviously timestamps will be below for everything. There's a lot more to cover at Thruxton, so you'll see that'll take up the vast majority of this video, but hey, I hope you enjoy, and there's some really cool stuff to unpack in it. So, round 3 is here at Silverstone for Tumilty's 90's BTCC Championship on SRS. Obviously back in the BMW again. And yeah, unlike Donington and Goodwood, Silverstone is actually a track that I've raced at before in Assetto Corsa. So, you would think this would play into my hands a lot better, but in the end, it actually ended up bringing up more questions than it did answers, which isn't good. Obviously, I just wasn't really happy with how the car was feeling. I wasn't sure if I'd gotten the setup right, and those kind of worries were kind of exacerbated in qualifying when I realized just how off the pace I was. I would sit for the race at the end of qualifying a lonely P13, which is my lowest qualifying to date, with a time of 2 minutes 11, whilst the front runners were running in the 2-minute 8s. Now, you could just write it off as Primera dominance, given that most of the front-running cars, or pretty much all of them, were Primeras, and pretty much all of the cars behind me were in fact BMWs. That was a fact. However, there was a BMW right there up the front, on the sharp end of the grid. Not quite pole position, but much, much further ahead than I was. And so, you know, in the end, it is just down to my driving not being up to the standard I would liked it to have been. So yeah, that was that really, and I had to just go into the race and hope for the best. Hope we could try and push forward and see what we could do. Now, as we come onto the race, honestly, again, this race was not all that good. It was just a very uninteresting drive from myself. We did succeed in the goal of moving forward from my starting position. I started 13th, finished the race 10th, but that's, again, not really what I wanted to. You know, at the end, I was just kind of nowhere. I had been struggling all race with the car. I had the pace at points to go higher. I just wasn't able to put it to good use. You know, I struggled making overtakes. I struggled under braking. I struggled with the tire wear. Everything just kind of didn't really click at the points where it needed to, which in the end really sucked. But you know, it was still a top 10 finish. There's nothing really interesting to show throughout the race, so a lot of the positions that I made up were more from survival than actually overtaking other cars. So, you know, as much as I'd like to talk about all the really cool things that happened in this race, there just wasn't any. So, round 4 is coming to us here from Thruxton, again in the BMW. I'm sticking to my guns with the BMW. Thruxton is a pretty unique track for me, as it is actually the only track where I have real-world experience of driving this track in relative anger. Just last year, round about almost exactly a year ago, end of September last year, I did a sort of driving experience day there, got to blast around the track in the Cayman. It was a lot of fun. But crucially, the instructor I had with me actually taught me a lot about how to drive this track in particular, but also just kind of some general things about car control that had either never truly clicked in my head or things I'd never really tried before. So it was a really insightful session, but obviously that knowledge that I picked up of how to drive this track would come in crucial here, as well as one other big thing, which I will show you here.
Fastest lap for Jones, 1:14.8. Car right side's clear.
That doesn't look like the right... Is that a clear line across? Can you do that line? That's crazy.
Indeed you can, James. So this was a bit of a sort of cheeky discovery I made during practice. And this was kind of an unintentional thing I stumbled across, but I mean, it gained me lap time, so why not use it? So I feel like I need to explain a lot of stuff here. So first of all, as you can see, the image we have on screen right now is an image of Thruxton's final chicane. Now normally, this chicane is pretty slow, it's quite tight, it's quite tricky to get right. However, if I show up the track limits diagram that I roughly sketched up about 2 minutes in pink, you will see that actually this entire green section on the inside of the track is actually completely within track limits, which means that as long as you keep 2 wheels on the green stuff, the lap is completely valid, which is just kind of ridiculous. Because this isn't a bug, this isn't an exploit, this is merely just an oversight made by the track developer. I am not tricking Assetto Corsa to not give me a penalty. I am just staying within the track limits. It's just that the track limits here are hilariously generous to the point where you can literally just pretty much straight line the middle of the chicane. And actually that example from that clip I showed you was a pretty bad example. We'll see a bit more of an aggressive attempt at it later on when I get onto my qualifying lap. Okay, yeah, so on to qualifying. Now in qualifying I was cautiously optimistic. Because I had a belief going into this race that this would be my best shot in the entire series to be able to etch out a win. I'd come close at Goodwood, and I kind of predicted that this race would be pretty similar to Goodwood. You know, the sort of high-speed turns and the nature of the track I felt would maybe suit the BMW more than the Primera. The Primeras would struggle again like they did at Goodwood, and so on, you know. And so I was gonna give it my all in qualifying, you know, try and push as hard as I can. And actually, mid-qualifying run, I pulled over. Obviously this was on a sort of end of one run, and I sort of just was like, okay, I don't think the softs are actually working for me in qualifying. And I actually decided mid-qualifying to switch onto the medium compound tyre for qualifying, even though it's the exact same tyre I'd be running in the race. I thought, you know, I'd done all my practice on the mediums. I'd barely done any practice on the soft. I just had more confidence in that tyre and the pace that I could extract out of it. And actually, in the end, it ended up paying off, as I was able to score my first ever pole position on SRS by about 3 tenths. I'll walk you through the lap now. Right, here we are coming on to start this lap now. I'm going to brake down, line the car up, full throttle all the way through the chicane. I'm actually going to cut just a tiny bit there, but that's okay. So I'm going to come onto the lap, full throttle, lifting off a little bit, get a little bit of rotation, use the curb to help rotate the car a little bit more. I'm going to keep it in nice and tucked in here to the left. I'm going to wait for that 200-meter board and then brake, hard braking all the way down into second gear. Keeping it nice and slow for this first bit so I can line the car up much better for this exit out of here. Keep the car nice and lined up, full throttle. Doing a bit lift there because I wasn't too confident. Back on the outside here, full throttle. Gonna kiss this little curb here and then lift off the throttle a little bit, help get a little bit more rotation around here. Tuck it into the inside as much as I can, then lift off again through here. Keep it steady on the throttle and then decide to get back on it. I'm gonna miss the apex, but I'm going to hold the momentum through, so it's actually not that big of a deal. I'm going to hold it full throttle through here. I'm going to begin to move over to the left. Then I'm going to lift off through here. Tuck it in right across the tarmac here over that curb. Full throttle. Round it right out wide there. Going to keep it over to the left as I'm going to get ready. Looking for that 200-meter board as it's going to appear. Then I'm going to straighten up the car and then hard brake, braking as late as I dare into this chicane, trying to hold as much speed, full throttle. Going to not cut this one, obviously, and then I'm going to stream across the line to finish the lap in 1 minute 13.4. And here we are, getting ready to start a race, actually from a different perspective this time. I thought this would be a pretty cool camera to show off, given that I'm starting from pole. And as you'll see, actually, as I launch, the BMW actually gets a much better launch than these Primeras, like all of them. And given the fact that most of the cars behind me were Primeras, they're going to sag back the whole field as that BMW is going to try and make a move, but I'm going to steam away as somebody dies in the background there. So we're going to come down braking into the first turn of the complex. You're going to see old David there, and the Nissan is going to close right up tight. That Primera being much stronger on the braking. And he's going to stick right on my tail all the way through here. I'm just going to keep my cool, try and hit my marks and go as fast as I can. He's going to try and make a look, but he's not going to quite be able to get the inside line that he wanted. I'm going to cover off the inside again here. He's going to back off a little bit. But he's going to come back on a charge. He's going to pull to the side. So we come down into the church bend. I'm going to lift off, make sure I give him a little bit of space, dabble on the brakes a little bit, but he's going to run himself wide off the road. And that's going to allow my loss of momentum, is going to allow Joel here to slide on through. So we're then going to begin heading up the hill into the braking point. For the final chicane, for the first time, Joel's going to have the lead. I'm going to be cautious on the brakes. However, I'm going to line up the move here. He doesn't know about the chicane. I'm going to go for it. But I'm going to screw it up a little bit because I'm not going to fully commit. I didn't want to jump out ahead of him and cause an incident because that wouldn't be good for either of us. But I'm going to hold the momentum still. But I'm going to back off a little bit as I wasn't sure if he was going to give me the space into turn 1. And that's, you see, is going to allow him to stream away from me. I'm going to try and close up with the braking. But obviously the Primera has those stronger brakes. I'm actually going to close up a little bit, but not quite enough. As actually we're now going to see here an example of the Primera's power, as he's going to stodge those turns, which realistically should have given me an advantage here. But as you can see, the gap's pretty much neutralized. The Primera actually seems to have more power, which it kind of does round here. As he's just going to keep pulling away from me. I'm trying my damnedest here. I'm hoping that maybe later on in the race, cards will be flipped, they'll be struggling, or he'll make a mistake, and that will eventually lend me the position come towards the end of the race. Who knows? You know, only time will tell. And time is a cruel mistress indeed, as just a lap later, coming into the final chicane again, in the braking, old Michael here is going to get past me, and I'm going to take my line again, but again, not commit to it enough, which is going to allow him to keep hold of that position, which means that I have to settle for third. And okay, you can see here the Primera's pulled away a little bit, and I'm pretty certain at this point the cars in front of me, and likely the cars behind me, either don't know about the final chicane or don't have the balls to pull it off. And so here, I have to commit. I have to go as fast as I can, but I'm not fully, and that's going to cost me, as I'm going to get on the curbs and then lose the rear of the car. Lock down the brakes to try and stop it from spinning, but it's not quite going to work. And there goes my hopes of winning. Also, I thought at the time, as I'm going to very awkwardly try and spin the car around here. I knew that if I kind of stayed where I was, all the cars would just stream around the outside of me, and therefore I wouldn't be getting in their way. I did try and sort of look for gaps to make my big moves backwards in, so that I wasn't sort of going to spook anyone out. But yeah, that was definitely not my finest moment for sure. At the time, I thought I'd just thrown away a potential win. But yeah, so it's now on to trying to recover from this, as I have dropped down from P3 to P11. And I'll actually be passed just in a little bit by our good old friend David from earlier, which will drop me down to P12. And actually, as soon as he overtakes me, he's going to overtake me right into the final chicane, where I'm going to absolutely send it. At this point, I have nothing to lose, so I'm just going to go for the move on him. And I, again, didn't fully commit to it, but it's going to pay off. Going to put us side by side, but in the end, I'm going to be the one to lose out here. He's going to take the inside line and stream away, head off into the distance. Now here we are, I've caught up a train of cars and I'm actually going to beat this Primera out here under braking, which is kind of a surprise given that the Primera is better at braking. He's going to not try and give me the inside here, but I'm going to take my line through the chicane, and so it's not going to matter. I'm going to hold a bit of momentum out here on pull, which means I'm going to start reeling him in. As we're going to come through this first turn here, I'm going to look to the outside, but then I'm going to switch over to the inside, ready to get into the hard braking, into complex. I'm going to send down the braking, going to clear him into the complex. Going to take it nice and easy in the exit though, just to make sure that I have fully cleared him, giving him a bit of space in case he wants to lunge back. But I'm going to clear him, and that is 2 spots gained. We are up into P10 as we're just going to go past a lapped car on the side. Don't even need to wait another lap, and more action is going down here. I've got a slipstream on Tumilty, but Tumilty also has a slipstream on Clegg ahead, as Tumilty is going to go and attack Clegg into the final chicane. Going to try and bring it side by side with them two. And so I'm just going to take my line through the final chicane and bring a whole lot of momentum on them both. Going to overtake Tumilty before the chicane's even done. And then pass Clegg on the inside into turn 1. Going to ease off a little bit here to give the space, but he's going to give it to me. I'm going to take that place, take P8, but not for long, as we're going to break down into the complex. He's going to come surging around the outside in the Primera, just to show just how much more braking the Primera has. As I'm going to try and reel him back through here, but it's just not quite going to pan out. Now, if you wanted to see the power of this final chicane move, here we are breaking in. I'm quite far back, but as I'm going to go through the chicane now, I'm going to completely erase my gap to fill ahead and actually have a run on him. He's going to try and block it off, and he doesn't want to give me the space inside, but I'm going to be able to weasel a little bit of space. Going to take the corner, break a little bit, make sure I don't hit him. And that is going to give me the position on him. However, again, short-lived position, as breaking down into turn 1, he's going to get back past me, and actually David is going to come past again because he took a little spin, and is going to drop me back down into P10. And again, to show off the power of this, look how far ahead he is here. I'm going to break it in, and then I'm going to take the chicane. Bit harder this time as well. He's going to screw up his exit and slide out wide, and I'm going to completely clear him and take the place. He's not going to be able to fight into this next corner, so I've actually got the position for the time being. A little bit later on into the lap now, he's going to challenge me through into this turn here. Actually going to stick a bit ahead, but I have the inside line. I'm going to brake a little bit just to make sure I don't go out wide and hit him. But I'm going to screw up and go a bit over the dirt and just concede a bit too much for this turn where I would have liked. Which is actually going to allow both him and David back through, because again, David took another off-track excursion. But they're both going to steam through. You can see just the momentum they have here. Phil's going to get a little bit ship-shape out of this turn, and that's going to allow me to get a run on him. Down again into the final chicane. You can see I'm closing. He's going to sort of be parked right on the line that I wanted to be on, which isn't going to allow me to send it around the outside. He's going to block a little bit around the outside, but nothing can truly block from the power of the final chicane, especially if you're going to get rearwards out like that. And I'm going to get a run up the inside. Not as strong of a run because I don't want to crash into him. I'm going to have to lean on the brakes here though, because the car was understeering through the turn, didn't want to crash into him, and that's going to give him back the position. Right, okay, so here we are on the final lap. I'm close enough to Phil here to make the move on the final chicane, as coincidentally we're coming up onto the final chicane. I'm going to brake in. He's going to take his regular line. I'm going to take my usual line. I'm just going to steamroll past him. Going to carry a lot of momentum right here, but not enough to steal P7 and even P6 there because he ran out of fuel. So in the end, I'm going to cross the line with a P8 finish. Okay, so now we're on to a bit of a nothing period, and I just wanted to use this bit here to talk about the sheer power of the Primera. As you've seen, pretty much all my moves on this comeback drive have been through the final chicane. And as you've seen, I've kind of just gotten all jammed up here around about P8-9 mark. I haven't been able to go any further than that. That is purely because just the just how much better of a car the Primera was here. For context, after the race, I sort of sat down and thought about it. All the top running cars were Primeras. I was the highest placed BMW, and you know, like, I was struggling to fight them on any part of the track that wasn't the final chicane. They were better on the brakes, they were better down the straights. It was kind of impossible. Had I not known about that trick, I likely wouldn't have gotten pole position, and I likely would have gotten anywhere near as high as I'd gotten in the race. And heck, to even prove that point more, if you saw the other day I posted a Primera hot lap, and the context behind that was that after the race, I had sort of, someone on Discord had sort of hinted to me that, you know, why don't you give the Primera a shot around Thruxton? And I did. And actually, it didn't take me that long, but once I'd figured out a rough setup and roughly how to drive the car, I took the similar line that I went with the BMW around the track and actually scored a lap time that was a whole second faster than what I had done with the BMW, which is just absolutely nuts. And then I realized that the car had more pace in it, and so then pushed on and got that 1:11 lap time, which you saw in the hot lap, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But it is how it is, you know. There is nothing I really could have done to sort of counteract that. It's just the Primera was the better car here, and there was nothing I could really do to challenge that, which in the end did make this kind of finishing position a bit more meaningful in the end. You know, I wasn't too mad that I'd lost the win, because I kind of realized that I wasn't going to win anyways. That does sound a bit like a downbeat term, but you know, I'm happy that I was at least able to be the best out of the BMWs. I was able to maximize the race, and if anything, it puts that pole position on an even higher pedestal than it should have been. You know, I'd go as far to say that's probably my best lap ever in sim racing. Yeah, it wasn't a perfect lap by any means, but the gravity of that lap holds behind it in terms of meaning is just ridiculous. It shouldn't have happened. That is just the simple fact of the matter. It shouldn't, but it did. So yeah, I think that's it for this race. We're on to Croft next, which should be pretty fun. So if you did enjoy, like, you appreciate it, and you subscribe for your appreciation as well. And I guess that's it for now. Goodbye.